So, namaste. Welcome to Satsang today. So, as always, let's begin with a reminder of what Satsang is and what it's for. Satsang means to gather together in the truth, not to gather together to search for truth, but to gather together in truth, as truth. So, if we come to this Satsang from that place where we are already, at least even intellectually understanding that we are the one consciousness, the one presence, committing to understand and experience itself, realize what it really is, rather than someone trying to get to that truth. And that is a endless task, an endless journey that never completes itself. And before satsang, there was a conversation going on about love and the path of devotion or bhakti. And it really did come to a beautiful place, which would be an excellent discussion here today to explore here in Satsang what the path of devotion or love really is. And many people have asked me many times what kind of path this is, that this teaching is. Is it devotion and bhakti? Is it wisdom? Or is it service and selfless service, karma yoga, jnana yoga, wisdom, of knowledge? And in truth, it's all of those. I don't really see how we could actually separate them anyway. In our deepest self-inquiry, we are devoted to seeing the truth of who we actually are, rather than being devoted to thinking about who we are. The reason that we sit to meditate each day or contemplate on a belief that we're struggling with is from a place of devotion to truth. It may feel that our spiritual practice is initiated at first by suffering, by the sense of a separate self that wants to get out of pain. And that is true also. That is also true. There's one reason why we come to satsang. But gradually, as we're experientially realizing who we are, we'll find also that there is something greater than the separate self, the presence, the consciousness that we really are, that is before form and appearing as the form, that is already devoted to recognizing itself. It's not invested at all in sustaining illusion. And it's important to know that because many of us might feel that our devotion isn't strong enough, devotion to truth. I certainly spent most of my journey feeling that way, that I wasn't anywhere near devoted enough. Really, the small sense of a separate self is devoted to illusion. That's what it is. It's a illusion sustaining mechanism, the separate sense of self. There's nothing wrong with it at all. And we don't need to judge it or blame it. If we do, then we are still in that illusion. The consciousness, the presence, can only really love. It is love, and it cannot judge or blame. It even unconditionally loves the presence of judgment and blame. And it is from this place, if we can come with the intention to come from our real self here in satsang, we might be able to absorb more of what is shared and more experiential realizing of who we are rather than thinking about it. truth is that we are all already free. Our thoughts are telling us otherwise. And that's normal, of course. And so a significant shift can happen in our awakening if we begin to realize that through no fault of its own, the mind, the separate sense of self, whatever you want to call it, the person, the ego, I'm using all those terms synonymously, cannot see what truth is. By its very nature, it divides into two. It takes that which is one and whole and divides it into two. And comparison. Right now, you might be comparing yourself to some awakened being, comparing yourself to how you were in Satsang last time you were here, comparing yourself to a future idealized version of yourself that will be more awakened than you are right now, or something like that. I did all of that too, of course. But can we be aligning ourselves softly and gently with that which is already completely devoted to truth? Because it is truth, it is presence, consciousness. What does that mean in actuality? Well, it kind of unfolded for me as a willingness to see what's already true. What's already true for me right now, both about the presence that I am, the formless presence that I am, and also about my real, already so authentic nature in my human life too, in the form, in the expression, how this body and mind and personality moves around the world, through the world. And if we are willing to see what's already true about ourselves, more than we are willing to sustain the sense that we need to change ourselves, improve ourselves, and get rid of some things about ourselves and get some things into us, become something. If we can just for a moment step away from the allegiance to trying to fix ourselves. We were holding a class last night in the community, which everyone is welcome to join, of course. And it came up this very subject that the reason that a lot of us came to Satsang, to our journey, is to try to improve upon something we thought was flawed about ourselves. This is the path of bhakti in its purest form. Bhakti isn't, or devotion isn't necessarily what we do or say. It's our devotion to what is already true, that is paramount importance, of paramount importance. And so we can foster that today with a willingness. I'd like to see what's already true for me. Maybe you are already very different to what you think you are. Once we have begun to even realize that there is something to realize about us, some shift is happening already within. And first, we might come into a recognition of the unmanifested, formless aspect of our being, the consciousness, the presence in its unmanifest form, formless form. And that allows us to a certain extent, to remove ourselves from our humanity and to rest just as this pure presence for however long we want to. And I did that for a while and looked at my human life and said, none of it's real, none of it exists. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter how screwed up my life is. But I count myself very fortunate and blessed that something began to eventually push me back in. Of course, you can't push formlessness back into anything, but there is a drive, a deep desire, a love of truth that was strong enough to overcome and look around what I thought was true about my human life, what I thought was true about me as a human being also. So I'm talking about the very beliefs that we hold on to so dearly, even after we have recognized who we are, these ideas that we are fundamentally flawed, inadequate, unworthy, unsafe, totally limited, unlovable, all of these things, that we are shameful or something like that, whatever our version of it is. The formless presence that we are, that is the love, that loves so completely, is going to nudge you back. And if you resist it, it will nudge you a little more urgently to go back into your human life from a place of self-love, devotion to truth, allowing that love of the self, of yourself, to also blossom in your human existence. And it's a very, very important part of our awakening to realize that the form, the mind, the subtle form of thoughts and emotions and all of that is the same formless presence in disguise. And we have to come to fall deeply in love with ourselves. Ourselves as human beings, just living our lives, going through our relationships and our work and our spiritual journey and all of that, whatever it is. So there's an invitation here to meet your human self, your human life, from this place of presence of the divine love that you are. As a natural, if you go far enough inwards to find the formless essence of who you really are, eventually that will come back out again and you re-embrace the form, but from the real place of truth, not embracing who we are in our human life because we want to fix ourselves. There's nothing wrong with wanting to change some things about your personality. You know, maybe you'd like to be a little more patient with people or a little quicker to forgive yourself and others. All of that is absolutely fine. But let's not do that from a place of, starting from a place of this idea of flaws and imperfection. There can be no such thing. Anything that comes from formless love is formless love and has not been modified at all. Every cell in your human body is pure formless presence of love. Every thought you have, every emotion you feel, every sensation, every contraction in the body, every tightness, every argument, every judgment of yourself or others is made of this formless presence of love. There is nothing else. So there's an invitation here to look at your life fresh, to start afresh today, now, to meet yourself from and as this presence of love. What is that like? And it doesn't mean that your mind is immediately going to stop judging everything and everyone. Again, it's a duality mechanism, it's a comparison mechanism. It can't stop until you absolutely accept it the way it is. How can you accept the mind the way it is? By realizing it does what it does very well. It does what it's designed to do very well. It's designed to assess your immediate environment and make very quick decisions based on data it has stored from previous experiences. And all that is very, very useful in our human existence when we think we're a separate being. But instead of making it wrong now, can we simply make it obsolete? It's not so important. With this devotion to what's actually true, when that's seated in our hearts, when that's our reason for coming to satsang. When it's devotion coming to satsang, devotion to truth, then there's an immense power that arises from inside, from which you can immediately see that no thoughts are true, and that they will never be true because they're a finite, limited expression of this infinite, formless, loving presence. The very act of thinking about anything or anyone distorts reality so badly that we can't trust anything that we see when we look through the mind. Meaning, any conclusions that we form about ourselves or others, any attitudes we have about life, the world, everything, none of that can be trusted to be true. Why? Because it's coming from this flawed distortion of reality. The moment you think about anything, first of all, you're perceiving what you're thinking about to be an object. It ideally isn't. And you're perceiving as if you were an object to someone, and you really aren't. So everything that our mind thinks is coming from this distorted perception of reality. And there's nothing wrong with it. Again, it's not evil, it's not bad, it's just not very good at recognizing the oneness. As soon as you think about anything, it's distorted your perception of reality. Doesn't mean we have to get rid of all thoughts. Just to recognize I might not be seeing the truth when I look through my mind is enough. And to stop blaming the mind. The mind is trying to answer a very, very important question that it thinks it can answer. And that question is, who am I? What is all this? Where did I come from? And so, looking at the mind even through the eyes of love, what do we see? When we look at the mind from a place of love, when we look at our human life from a place of love, what can we possibly see from there other than more love in disguise? Right now, we can apply this to our own life. If you look at all the things that you think about yourself, your popular ways of thinking about yourself. Yeah, I had to do this over and over again. Can I trust any of it to be true? What if I could pick the mind up in a way and put it just nicely in a soft, warm little place where it could rest, because I'm realizing finally that nothing that it thinks is ever going to tell me anything about myself, you, or anything. Again, it's not bad or wrong, it's just very, very limited. And it cannot perceive reality through its very active division into two. And if you watch the wheels of the mind turning, it's always doing this, right? It's always dividing into two and comparing who you think you are compared to who you think you should be. Who you think you are compared to who you thought you were 2 years ago, 5 years ago, one day ago. What you're experiencing right now compared to what you experienced yesterday. What you would like to be experiencing in a year from now compared to what you're experiencing now. What you're understanding from this satsang compared to what you think everyone else is understanding from what I'm saying. On and on and on it goes, endlessly. But if we're honest, and we can do this right now, if you really want the truth, I'd invite you right now to look at yourself without thought, to just look at yourself, your mind, your body, your life, without thinking about it, without referencing thoughts. Thoughts might be there, but I'm going to just not reference them for a while. What do I know about myself if I don't think about myself? What do I know to be true? What do you really know? What can you rely upon without using thought, memory, future anticipation, which are all also thought? Memory of how you think you were in the past, how long you think you've been seeking, how far you think you've got in your awakening, what you feel you keep messing up or getting wrong in your awakening and in your life, what you think about your children, your spouse, your siblings, your parents, what you think about all the great teachers that have come and gone, what you think about anything, everything. What do you know to be true? If you didn't have any of that, you can do it right now by looking at yourself for the very first time without referencing thought. When I first did this, the first time, I realized that I had never met myself. I had met myself as formlessness many times in my inquiry, in my seeing and my meditation, deeply, deeply meeting myself. And then turning that willingness to meet myself onto my expression as form, both subtle forms, gross tangible form, my relationships, everything. My relationship with money, with time, with energy, with myself. And astonishingly, there was nothing left to rely upon. Without thought, what do we know to be true about ourselves? We can experience this right now. What can you be certain of other than the fact that you do exist? You are here. Can you still be certain that you are fundamentally flawed? That there is something inadequate about you? Can you be certain of that still? Will you hold on to that with such intensity? So we're shifting our allegiance here, our devotion, from being devoted to thinking about ourselves and our awakening, to thinking, to not thinking and not referencing thoughts, at least, to actually experiencing. Just experience your body right now without thinking about it and see what happens. Just feel into it. Just this very simple thing of just actually experiencing your body without thinking about what you're experiencing. It's a different way of moving through life. You can even experience your mind arising without thinking about it, not thinking about the thoughts. Thoughts just arise and then they go. If there's any negative emotion that you're feeling right now, or any pain in the body, or contraction or tightness, just experiencing it without referencing thoughts. You don't know what it's called, this emotion. You don't even know if you felt it before. You don't know what it is. You don't know how to get rid of it. You don't even know if you should get rid of it. You don't know anything without thinking. Accept the fact that you are here, which can be proved experientially. This then is the simplest way to live. challenging this idea that it's impossible and even not even safe or a good idea to live your life like this, to meet every single person with a willingness to actually experience who they are today, meeting yourself from this place of willingness, meeting fear from this place of willingness, a shame. There is no way for us to be able to suffer like this. And again, we're not making thought the bad guy. It's just a very limited way to experience ourselves. In fact, if we think about ourselves, we don't ever experience our actual self. Think about your body is a good way to avoid actually experiencing it. Thinking about shame is a good way to avoid actually experiencing it. Thinking about bliss and how to keep a hold of it is a good way to avoid actually experiencing it. Peace, whatever. Thinking about your marriage or your relationship with your children or your siblings is a good way to actually avoid being in it, right in the middle of it. Their mind is certain that the last thing you would want to do is be right in the middle of it. But this is this devotion, this drive towards truth that will gently nudge you back. Experience what life is like now, without the lens of looking through the mind at everything. A willingness to experience life as it actually is. Most of all, to experience yourself. To just notice yourself, your mind and body going about their day. From the place of loving presence, what do you see? Very different, very different. What if this whole idea that awakening or enlightenment is some final goal that is achieved once we are good enough is a total, total lie? What if it's more like a way of being that we're practicing now, just experiencing what is about ourselves already? No longer so in love with trying to think about ourselves in order to try to improve something. More willing to see every day and experience what's already so. It's a strange question that I'm going to ask you, but I'd like you to just take it for a moment and entertain it inside and see what happens. And the question is, would you know if you were awakened? Would you know? And it's a strange question because my mind immediately said to me the first time, of course I would know, of course. And it had a whole list of ways that I would recognize when I had reached that place of awakening. Conversely, a whole set of signs to look for that show me I'm not there yet. Suffering, negative emotions, pain in the body, too many thoughts, dysfunctional relationships, not enough of this, not enough of that, too much of that. And that success in awakening, I'll know I'm there when all of this list is gone. But without thought, how will you know if you are awakened already? Could you recognize if you're already awake? It's a crazy thing to ask. But I'm asking anyway, because only when I finally stopped and asked myself, what if it's already happened and I haven't noticed? because I'm still chasing down the road after the mind and this self-improvement project that was my human life. I hadn't actually noticed what had happened to me. In my devotion to truth, something profound had happened to me. But my insistence, your insistence that you're not there yet, keeps creating that experience for you. What if the dysfunctional relationships and the not enough of this and the too much of that and the lack of bliss, of peace, and the presence of fear and all of that is only a reflection of one thought? One thought. I'm not there yet. I'm not awake enough yet. Did you know that self-recognition can happen even while the mind is convinced it isn't happening? Something inside is waking up and it cannot be stopped because it is the only reality that exists. The presence of love is all there is. And the mind is largely unaware when awakening happens. It's strange, isn't it? Isn't there this myth that you will know? You will know. It wasn't true for me. Had to put the brakes on and cultivate some real willingness to see what was actually already true for me. And to not use my current experience of my human life as evidence that I'm not yet there yet. My current experience of my human life was actually a reflection of this idea that I'm not there yet. And this idea began to leave as I was willing to see where I actually am. This is the invitation I want to finish this talk with today. There's an invitation here to explore who you already are, not where you think you are, not what you think you need to do in your awakening. To be open and willing to find out. Thought will always have its opinion about where you are and what you should do next, and what you're getting wrong and what you're getting right. Are you willing just for a moment to sweep all of that aside and actually find out? I cannot describe in words the fundamental shift in my whole awakening that happened when I was finally willing to just look. Anything that we look at with the eyes of love shows itself to be love. Everything we look at through the eyes of love shows itself to be made of love too. Even the mind itself. So I hope that you have received this invitation in your heart that it's not about doing more. It's not about getting somewhere. And looking for that one who is willing to stop in this moment and actually look. Is that you? I know it is. Let's not chase this endless carrot any further. Let's realize that what we're seeking is already here. It must be, because we are reality. We are that presence. The presence is all there is. Even if we only understand that intellectually right now, you can still apply what's been shared here today. Or the other option is you continue seeking for another year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, lifetimes. Usually by the time you find yourself in a teaching like this, though, you've had enough. It's not really going to work anyway to try to get to somewhere that you're not sure of the destination. from a starting point that you're not sure of either, because you're using thought to try to figure out where you're starting from, and thought to figure out where you're supposed to get to, also known as insanity. So I hope that has uh, stirred something within you to really recognize devotion is already here. We're just aligning it now to what's already true rather than what we think is true. You can do that in a second and keep doing it. Keep realigning, keep reaffirming. I'm more committed to experiencing what's already true. You'll be so surprised and astonished at what you find when you look at yourself this way. Right now, as messed up as your life seems to be, you'll be astonished by what you see if you actually look like this. So, if anyone would like to ask a question, please feel free. We'll start with Tiago.
Hello.
Hi.
First of all, I want to thank you I really want to thank you because since I have stumbled upon your teachings, it's been a complete revolution. I think I was ready. I've seen you before and I've resonated, but now it's and day by day I'm more and more in this like effortless state. I can see others like as myself, not of course I see perceptions, but I understand that what they are is the same as I am.
Mhm.
But what I want to really, the other day you touched a point, um, and I continue to explore over that, and there's still something that it's not really clear because when I look experientially at my experience, I see that the problem, I see that it is thought that it is or resisting or seeking, like projecting in the future. But I can see also that thought is made of this formless thing, that it is the only thing that exists. And if it is the only thing that exists, and it is because I look at things and deep down they are the same, I'm trying to separate like what's the so-called natural state, and sometimes I think I can touch it, and then like the natural state is like something like not seeking or not resisting, just like you were saying now, just being present, just being not knowing, not expecting, not trying to, I know this is a person. No, completely open. But then it seems like the thought is also something is believing, like something is believing to be a person, because we are all here believing to be a person still. And if it is the same thing that believes or doesn't believe, and we as persons, we can do nothing because it's only the self that desires, that believes, that vibrates into these forms. I can't understand this. You see, how can I be effortless sometimes, and then, oh, I have to do this, my house is under construction, I have a big problem financially, because someone stole money from me. And you see, I don't know what shall, the question is, what shall I do? The most efficient thing to do for that my that's it. I'm seeking like for that my life goes in a way that you see these problems that I like every area of my life is a mess. Like financially, the problem of the house, even my relationships with my wife, my family.
Has trying to think about your problems actually helped to resolve them?
No, no, it just gets worse and worse. But then there is something here that something must be done. Like, and it is done. I'm still doing things,
It's
but
something must be done. Yeah, that's true. But what if you have no idea what needs to be done?
yeah,
You approach the problem without any idea of what needs to be done to resolve it.
without any idea, no projection.
Yeah, like if you meet your wife today and I have no idea what's happening in our relationship. I mean, maybe don't tell her this, but inside, well, unless she's on the path, but uh inside you don't know who she is. You don't know what a marriage is. You don't know what problems are. You don't know how to fix them and
Yeah,
see what happens.
I understand that because when I there's another video that you talk something like today, and I go there, but then it's the habit of like the triggers and even when I look at her, sometimes I listen to her voice because she's a little bit grumpy sometimes, and it makes me react inside. And I understand what you say, but how can I be
Are
that
you
that
powerless over these triggers when they arise? Are you powerless as who you really are? What if these um, triggers that come are, obviously we're talking about relationship here, but it could be from anything. What if they are a call or a meeting place where you can forget something else that you were sure of the moment before? So you hear her voice, it has a certain sound to it, and the mind would immediately say, oh, she's grumpy. Now we're going to get into an argument and it will go on all day or whatever happens, right? In that moment, there's an opportunity to stop and say, actually, I don't know what's about to happen. I don't know what this sound in her voice means. I don't know what's going on here.
yeah,
And the trigger, instead of it being the problem, can actually be a prompt or a reminder to come back to the not knowing.
okay, understand.
Like, wow,
Understand.
my body feels terrible when I think I know something. My body's shouting at me that I should forget what I think I know.
Yes. And what about the desires? Because the desires that I have really the desires that I have, not those things, but for example, it's been a long time since I want to do something like you are doing, you see? And it really comes from a deep place. But then there is another, it's blocking me and I'm postponing. I have already done,
What
I
do
have
you
already
think? What do you think is true about this? What do you know about this problem? What are you certain of? That you don't have the funds or the time or the resources to make it happen? Are you sure of this?
no, I'm not sure of anything.
But you will be,
But
wherever there is a problem in your life, there'll be something that you are really sure of, that you know, that you're
yeah,
really holding on to.
yeah.
And we all do it, of course.
I think what the assumption is I will start and I will stop again because I have done it in the past uh,
Uh,
and
as a
maybe
person,
fear of rejection because these teachings, these things that we talk about. to the people that we know, like
Hmm.
it's a bit,
How
and
many
maybe
times do you think I started and stopped teaching?
I don't know.
Probably you have this idea that once I started it, it all went really well and smoothly, and here we are.
Yeah, yeah,
Wasn't like that at all. Because of all the things I thought I knew, I thought I wasn't good enough to do it. I thought
yeah.
nobody would want to listen.
I'm not there.
All of that stuff, yeah. And all
I'm
of that
not
had to
listening.
be burnt off in the forgotten, in the seeing of what's actually true. The fact of the matter is, if this is what you're destined to do, it's gonna happen, despite how much you resist it.
I feel that there's something that I can't resist anymore. You see, like it's pushing me,
Mhm.
and I. But there's a fear also, like it's like a battle between both. It's like pushing me and pushing me and pushing me.
Who is stronger, the real self or the imagined self that doesn't exist?
Of course, it is the real self because the imaginary self, it's the that, that's another question. Like the imaginary self, it is the real self, but believing it is limited.
Yeah. And that's all that's happening here in this process of awakening is it's gradually shedding its ideas of limitation, lack, unworthiness, all of that stuff, isn't it?
And can I do something to? Can I do like as the self? Can I do something to change the process? No, I can't because I don't know what's best. I don't know. It's like you say, I have to live totally in this not
Things
knowing.
that we can do, we can engage in spiritual practice, which is a way to accelerate the forgetting of what we think we know. And this is what we do here, self-inquiry, meditation, contemplation. They're all ways to forget what we think we know to be true and actually experience what is true.
Yeah.
Practice is towards always authentic practice is always towards seeing more clearly who we are not and letting it go.
I'm doing that every day. It's like not an obsession. Like yeah, it's
Obsession.
love.
It's an obsession. Yeah.
I just want to do this. I don't care about nothing else. Of course, I love my kids, but my priority is this. I sleep thinking. I sleep doing this. Sometimes it seems I don't sleep. You see, it's all the time.
If you love the truth, which you do, then be determined to see that same truth everywhere, everything. So in the places where we would tend to think about something, we're more determined day by day to actually experience what it really is, who that person really is. And that's often hardest with those closest to us, our kids, our spouse, our parents,
Yes, yes.
because we think we have lived with them for so many years. We
I
have a
think we.
whole imagined history in our mind with them and a
Yeah,
projected future,
yeah, yes.
something to
And,
ponder, right?
and just like for example, just one last
Yep.
question, because I have this problem with the constructor of the house. I'm building a house, and he like stole. He didn't stole. Like he kept. I gave him a bit more money that I should have, and he kept it, and it was a little bit our savings and now he's not do. I rely on him to finish the job, and he's not doing it.
Because
And
you think that he is the one that needs to finish the job. You're certain of that. What if
yeah,
life is trying to give you something better? So, how about not knowing how the house is going to get built? Yeah. Mine says you're crazy. I have to know. But
no, 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 no. It was not that. It was different. It was like, yeah, of course. How didn't I thought about this?
any
Yeah, true.
place that we're suffering or that our life isn't flowing is because we think we know something and we are so sure of it.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, if we trust, if we know that the self is all capable, is everywhere, it will happen. I don't know how.
And that's the fun of it, right? Not knowing how, it becomes fun. Just watching
Yeah,
it unfold.
yeah, but it's the habit, the sickness of the mind,
And that's
the
what
habit.
today the
Yeah,
satsang is all about, right? Just
yeah,
switching over that habit gradually.
yeah, I love it.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to Mitra.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, love.
Thank you so much for the beautiful talk. Um, my question is that, when you say stop and look and see how awake you are already, then I just really looked at my own definitions, the criteria that I have for being
How you
awake.
will know. Yeah.
Exactly. um, was that one was the amount of thought, which I also heard from somebody awake, that your amount of thoughts will reduce. And I also, during like when the grace happened, like, just accidentally, I didn't have much thoughts. I had, but it was all in the background. So that's what is one of my definition. Another one was, um, how one I feel with everything. I noticed in the last 5 years that love has grown in my life, for just even strangers.
Mhm.
But um, but I don't feel one. Like there is nothing like that
Is
at
oneness a
all.
feeling? Is oneness going to be a feeling?
That's what I thought, because at some points I myself felt in the moments of grace, kind of, I wouldn't say I experienced oneness, but it was a little bit of it, like, I don't know how to describe it. Or maybe I heard it from others and
And you have an experience of oneness.
I don't know. Can
It's a really good
you?
question because we're also sure that we can. We're sure that we can have a momentary snippet experience of this that is eternal, indivisible. But any experience that I have is happening to a separate self, isn't it?
Yes.
So even an
Oh,
experience of oneness, is it even possible? The
oh
very
wow.
experiencing is
Okay.
in two-ness, isn't it?
That's right. So
And
yeah.
we take these glimpses are beautiful, they're inspiring, and they urge us deeper, these moments of grace, as you said, but they're not the ultimate truth. We can have good experiences, amazing experiences, terrible experiences, horrible experiences. They're all still in separation. No experience is a true reflection of what's actually true, the oneness. Only when we're no longer separating ourselves from anything is there actual oneness being lived. And we do that by letting go of thinking about what's happening. So if you, just for this moment, just with me here, really want to experience what is, there'll be peace. To actually experience what is, just what is right now. How do you feel?
um, I feel empty, and I feel also a sensation of my body, my whole body kind of awareness, and but I feel very empty,
Yeah. No suffering?
no suffering.
Mm.
It's like emptiness is looking,
And
it's
yet,
all empty space.
yeah. And yet your senses are still perceiving, your mind can still think, your heart is still beating, you're still having this conversation, everything's still going on. It's just that how you're experiencing it all is different. Instead of coming from here, there's more of an actual experiencing of it. That's the oneness right there. I will not separate myself from what is by thinking about what is.
Okay.
It's not an experience, this, is it?
No,
It
it's
might
totally
seem
empty.
it might seem to be an experience if later we start thinking about what is again. It might seem that we've lost it temporarily, but it's not a coming and going, this emptiness, is it? It's permanent, always here. You can prove that right now if you look.
Um, and then this that I feel, how different it is with the way you feel now, like
Exactly
usually.
the same. You're having exactly the same. There is another word other than experience, but what you're experiencing right now is exactly the same as what I'm experiencing.
But then, is there any sense of connection for you? Because again, in the period of grace, and also sometimes it happens that I just feel connected. I wouldn't say
Connected to who?
maybe to myself. I don't know to what.
What would you
Maybe to myself. I don't know.
in the deepest knowing of who you are, there is nothing to be intimate with, actually, nothing to connect with, nobody to connect with. And that sounds really lonely to the mind. But how it's actually lived is it looks like a rich intimacy with all of life, even with our inner world of thoughts and emotions, a deep embracing of all of it, because you're experiencing it as you're experiencing a thought, but not as a thought. You're experiencing it as emptiness. You're experiencing the emotion as emptiness. You're experiencing your body more as emptiness than a body. Your relationships as emptiness, moving, dancing, playing, all of that. Also, on top of this recognition of truth, there is a personality that still functions, a functionality of the separate sense of self. And it doesn't go away because it's part of having a body and mind, and it's useful even. Once we know it's not who we are, we can just let it run around and do its thing. It will organize your day and it will get everything done. And the person, the sense of a person, begins to feel more and more connected, blessed, grateful, inspired, all of that as time goes by. But that's something that you're really watching. It's not separate to you, it's just a shape you're playing with.
So you just said the sense of person will feel connected. So that sense of connection that I felt, was it from a sense of a separate self then?
It came from an experience of who you really are, a little moment of not resisting everything intensely, and truth breaks through for a moment. And that is reflected then in the sense of the person. The person feels inspired, connected, blessed by grace, and all of those things. But later it will feel disconnected and uninspired and all of that. So the person is a thought construct, an energetic construct. That's all. It's not a real thing. And it's actually like a software program for the body so that the body can function and do everything it needs to do. That's all it was ever supposed to be, not the main idea of who we are. Once we know that, once we recognize who we really are, this software program is free to function very well and very efficiently, and it will feel, um, we were all at retreat in Madrid earlier in this month, and there was this deep sense of meeting up with family that we hadn't seen in a long time, so much love and sharing and all of that. Deep down, we know none of that is really true, but we can enjoy it. We've all come seemingly from all over the world to be in this one place at this time. None of that has actually happened. And yet we can enjoy it, savor it. It's been ages since I've seen you. How have you been? What's changed in your life? So you get to experience both. But first, the emptiness of our being, who we really are, becoming deeply established as that doesn't think about anything.
So my whole effort to actually get to that place that feel connected, like those times that I did in the period of grace, all that actually is wrong. Like it's not, I mean, that was from a sense of, that's a kind of sense of separate self. That's that energetic thing.
And
Basically, I'm chasing the wrong thing.
any movement or efforting to get back to that place is going to only serve to make you feel more separate to it. So instead, as we recognize that, there's more of an instead of course I want to uh, be living as my real self, but instead of efforting or striving or trying to change something in order to have that happen, what happens if I just open up and see what's already here right now? Maybe it's not about going somewhere, but going or going like this, what's already here now. It's a different way of it's a more relaxing and an opening and a softening and an allowing of what's naturally present all the time just to come to the forefront of our experience.
So, so basically, just doing what I did, like that emptiness.
Just that. And if you find yourself efforting and striving, just stop it the moment that you can. Let go of it, doesn't matter. Don't beat yourself up over it. Don't analyze it. Okay, there I was doing it again. Let me just stop and open, see what's here now, right now, which is really what meditation is and self-inquiry. It's the same, isn't it? What is
Yeah.
here now already before I try to move towards something?
And then from this place of emptiness, will that then feel a bit more full? Because I guess that emptiness that I'm feeling right now is really empty, like it's like air.
First, it feels empty. At first, it feels just empty and blank. Then it feels, as we continue to experience it, it feels like there's a contentment here, a safety, and then a peace develops, and then a rich and profound joy. Because it's not really, it's empty of form, but it's not empty. It's fullness. It is the fullest fullness that we could ever meet and experience about ourselves. So, honoring it how it is now, at least for me, it was enough that I could not suffer like this. I was so desperate to not suffer that that was enough. If that's all it ever was, it's just emptiness and I can't suffer. But as I took refuge there as that, it began to open up into something that I cannot put words to, no matter how hard I try. And there was a falling in love with it. I was, would read about the sages who describe this richness, this fullness, this love, this joy, this bliss. And I was thinking, it's just emptiness, it's just silence. Maybe I haven't met it fully. Maybe I'm still thinking about it a little bit. It's a
Thank you
shift
so
over
much.
in the way
Yeah.
that we're functioning, right? Just a gentle shift, a quiet shift in the way that we're approaching awakening life, everything.
Thanks so much. I mean, it just sounds very easy. Like I can just be like an air. That's how it feels to me. It's very boring. Let me admit that. But if I
Find
keep
out if
doing it,
it's actually boring. Meet it without that idea as well and see what happens.
okay.
I've never had anyone come back and say, Helen, I'm going back into illusion because the self was just totally dull, you know? I want my money back from retreat because it was it was just boring. I was bored to tears, you know.
Yeah.
Everyone comes back and says, you know, this is nothing like I thought it was. Nothing at all that I thought about being awake was actually true, how it would be. And that's the delicious invitation to discover that, isn't it? Mind looks at the emptiness, it goes, it's boring, seen it, done it, enough, move along, next. But we have to be mature enough to go, well, maybe we haven't seen all of it. If it's infinite, how could we possibly see all of it? But I'm willing to spend the rest of my life and beyond experiencing it ever deeper. And it is full. It is full. So full. So, so full of everything you could ever want. Paradise.
And then how long it takes to get from this boring phase to a little bit more interesting?
So as soon as we stop talking, spend 5 minutes, right, as I move on to the last question, spend 5 minutes really meeting emptiness as it actually is, letting go of all assumptions about it, that you have to keep it, that it's going to go away, that it's boring, that it's fullness, everything. Just experience it and see what happens. I know
Thank you
what's
so
happening, so
much.
I'm smiling. I can't stop smiling, but yeah. It's an invitation for everyone, everyone. So thank you, love.
Thank you.
We'll finish with Lean.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
Yeah, in fact, I tried not to raise my hands, but it happened.
It just goes up
Really
anyway.
did. Yeah. Um, well, I really liked also what you talked about. And when you said something like, would you know if you were awake? Yeah, that was very interesting because then I realized, yeah, because I seem to think again, I'm not awake, but that's like coming from the mind. Like the mind will always think that.
And what kind of
The
evidence
mind,
are we going to see if we're sure? If that's the starting assumption, I'm not awake yet. If we are the infinite reality, that's the infinite power, and we're looking through this idea, I'm not awake yet, can we possibly see any evidence of being awake? Abundance, peace, joy, bliss. Like, is it ever going to be possible? Not at all. And that gets clearer, right? Of course, my life keeps reflecting back to me this idea that I need to do more work on myself. Of course, it has to.
yeah, it's so simple when you say it like this.
I remember the moment I really, really got that. It's like I could go on forever looking at my outer life of my emotions and everything and using that to conclude that there's more to be done.
Mm.
And it's never going to work that way, ever.
No, now I also feel like a lot of energy is moving through the body now. And just before, when you finished the talk and you said this, I don't remember exactly what you said. Something also like, I don't know about this, about do you know if you're already, would you know it? And then I also suddenly recognized myself so clearly again. And there was like so much, like immediately love and joy, like this. Um,
Before time, before phenomena, before duality, before change, before anything, you are. And the moment you see your own formlessness, you have recognized yourself. The trouble is then we go back to the world of phenomena and try to use that as evidence that we can use to recognize ourselves. Well, if I had recognized myself, I wouldn't be feeling fear. I wouldn't be in a ton of debt. My relationships would all be working. But right now, if you experience your formlessness, that's it. You've seen it. It's it. You can't deny that you have recognized yourself. But it has to
I
be an ongoing commitment to recognizing that again and again, hasn't it? Rather than using phenomena as evidence.
Yeah, I guess it's like that. I don't really know. It's just strange to like I've seen like so clearly, like so without any doubt. In fact, I don't have any doubt, and still then it appears differently. That's so weird that it could happen like this.
You had
Um,
no physical life, no physical world, no body, no manifested aspect of yourself at all. Could you ever doubt the recognition of who you are?
uh, the first part of your sentence was,
Okay,
could you say
sorry,
it again?
it wasn't phrased very well. If suddenly your body was gone, everything was gone, there's no evidence there to reference how you're doing, is there, in your awakening? We're always looking at the outside world and using that as a reflection for how we think we're doing.
Yeah,
But that is a reflection
yeah.
of how we think we're doing, not how we're actually doing.
Mm.
Really, it all ought to be over the very first time you self-inquire and find out who you really are. It should be over then, right? Wow, I'm not anything in form. Wow. It's like, oh my God. But there's this allegiance to perceiving ourselves as a someone that takes a
Mm.
little while to just fully let go of.
Mm. Like it's just a bit of a habit coming back. But I know it's also the infinite self. Like in fact, I also know it's not a problem, but then it does seem to be a bit like that again.
The ocean is so busy counting the waves on its surface to tell whether it's an ocean or not.
Mm.
It's, it's always the ocean. There's never a time
Mm.
it's not. Even when it's certain it's a wave, it's still the ocean. And
Yeah, it cannot be.
cannot not be the ocean.
Mm.
We're just coming to realize that nothing in phenomena, there's nothing wrong with phenomena. I have nothing against phenomena. I love them. They are me. But there's nothing in phenomena at all that I can use to reference anything about myself, ever. Especially how I'm doing in recognizing myself.
Mm.
Especially that.
That's another thought.
How can a phenomena or something in form tell me anything about myself if I am totally formless and the ground from which all phenomena arise? There's just no way to ever finish the search that way, is there?
It also sounds very absurd if you put it that way. Like it's like so tiny in yeah, in this vastness.
Of course, we've nothing against phenomena, but if I keep referencing them to recognize how I'm doing in my awakening, if I still feel unworthy in my body, I'll go
Mm.
back to work on myself. And it goes around and around and around. But it's just a feeling. It's a feeling. It's a phenomenon. What can it tell you about you?
Mm. Mm. And this what happens in phenomena, like for example, in worthiness or fear, is just something like an appearance that's anyhow empty and that just moves in its own way, like goes like what you said before. You don't have to know anything about it of how it will continue to move in which direction or which way or like this.
Yeah, phenomena are simply there to help you realize that you cannot reference anything in phenomena to define yourself. Once you stop doing that, so even self-doubts, emotions, contractions, experiences we keep having, all of that, the patterns that we seem to carry. Once we stop referencing any of that as telling us anything about ourselves, of course we'd like a nice human life too, of course we would. But that can only happen when the phenomenal world or universe isn't having to reflect back to us this idea that we aren't finished yet.
Mm.
It can only reflect that back to us. When we're resting instead in a knowingness of who we really are that is already complete and whole, what happens to the phenomenal reflection then? It's got to reflect that wholeness, that completion also.
Yeah.
Mind says,
Yeah,
when it reflects wholeness and completion, then I'll believe I'm finally there. It
yeah,
doesn't,
it cannot work this way.
yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Just to see that is a huge leap in our awakening, isn't it?
Mm.
So for me, it was a decision to recognize, I have recognized myself, no matter what my bank account or my relationships or my um, faulty old car was telling me over and over again, what the mind was telling me about these things.
Mhm.
I'm going to let anything or anyone sway my opinion on how I'm doing
Mhm.
because it's all a reflection of what the mind is projecting.
Mhm. Yeah, that never says anything about who I am.
It can't, right? It just simply can't.
Mm. And like, I wonder, for example, since the retreat, I have this, like, I wonder, but it's like I think that's a thought, but I don't know. It's like uh, the idea that it's about, I don't know why I'm laughing. um, um,
Because you're seeing the absurdity of it, right?
yeah, it all feels a bit absurd.
It's a good joke now. It's a good joke now, isn't it, that you're telling us? Yeah.
Like, is it also a heat moving through the body again?
We are so free that we have 100 million ways to imagine that we're not, right? And we can play with all of them over and over again.
But doesn't matter. Like nothing happens if I imagine again that I'm not free. It's just the same thing.
Yep.
It doesn't matter, in fact.
Freedom, imagining itself to be bound or limited, still doesn't mean it actually is.
Mm. And just like if that happens, and I just know it is just moving through like a thought, like a cloud, and it's after a while gone again, and it doesn't really matter.
Walking through some thick fog and you come out the other side, you go, that was weird. Back to normal. Yeah. Well, that was freaky for a while there, or scary or whatever, but nothing really happened.
That's a nice.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Helen.
Thanks for the laugh. Okay, that seems like a good place to leave it for today's satsang. And again, I'll just leave you with this invitation to actually experience what you really are. And the recognition, as we were saying there, that no phenomenon is ever going to tell you anything about yourself. All the beautiful ones, especially, and all the ugly ones. And bringing more devotion to what is actually true. Just beginning to take devotion away from what we think is true. It'll be a huge and epic shift that you cannot go back from, also known as self-love emerging. Thank you. Namaste.